Kara, you want to intro the podcast?
What do I say? Do I say like, hi, everybody? This is
Welcome
the
to
Band Together podcast.
So welcome to Band Together, a podcast by the family Crest, right?
Okay.
Say your name.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to Band Together, a Family Crest podcast featuring me, Kara Lancaster.
Yeah. Good job. Pew, pew, pew. The second video episode I get to put pew, pew, pews in. Last week was the first one.
Can you get some overlay confetti that just
God. I mean, that's like, yeah, I could figure that out.
I'll show you how to do it. It's really easy. It's just in the compositing settings. It's fine.
Great. It's like, as long as I don't have to go into After Effects.
You don't. No, you don't.
Fantastic.
Kara directed the Pride video, and evidently she's also directing this episode of Band Together.
It's probably better than me. Shit.
Well, we are here again. It is week 50 billion of quarantine, and
sure is.
We just dropped Pride, the first single off of the War Act 2, which, all of us and Kara have heard for quite some time now. We are excited to get it out finally.
It's filmed right before quarantine started, if you remember.
It was like the week before. It was the week before everything closed down.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kara, while you were here, we were basically going back and forth and like stressing, and I was asking you for advice on, the European tour and the rest of the world in general in terms of what we thought was going to happen. And I'm usually a doomsdayer, and I'm like, plan for the absolute worst, and everyone knows that. So, and Kara's like, oh no, I'm sure it'll be like pseudo okay. And then literally 4 days later, everything explodes in our face. So
I definitely thought that you were full of shit. I thought you were just like, doing your hypochondriac thing. Like, I don't know, what if we get stuck out there? And then yeah.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I kind of thought that I was doing my hypochondriac thing. And then, lo and behold, the world is ending.
Here we are.
So we're going to talk about the music video for Pride, which we just released.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's been a week now, but as of this recording, it was yesterday.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I was thinking we should do our music picks first, and then we can dive into talking about the video and the song.
Sure.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
I'm not going to go first because I'm still deciding.
Not me either, actually.
All right.
I'm usually well prepared.
Oh, Owen's going first again.
Oh, actually,
wow.
I know what I'm going to do. But yeah.
I can go first.
Oh, okay. Kara goes first.
I said I was doing it.
All right. So, this doesn't happen super often for me, but I heard a song that just kind of popped on. Had no idea who it was, and it just instantly made me happy. And I was like, I have to look this up. And I looked it up and then found out that the entire record is good, which is another thing that makes you super stoked. The song that I heard was called Happy Face by Alaska.
Like Alaska twice? Or
it's Alaska. The last A of the first Alaska is also the first A of the second Alaska.
Clever.
So it's Alaska.
Did you text this? Did you text this song to me?
I sent it to you.
You did.
Yes. I sent it to you.
I know
Clearly,
this.
you checked it out.
I know what it is.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So it was
so much
it just, it just made me so happy that I went home and I've spent the last 10 days learning the whole record on drums.
Nice.
So,
Oh, damn.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's been
Really
fun.
Put out some more drum covers.
All right, who's jumping in?
Owen, you want to go?
Sure.
Owen's going.
Never heard anyone do that one before.
Owen's going.
I just got back from 4 days in the wilderness, and the only person who had a phone that actually had a decent playlist downloaded was my girlfriend. So we just listened to her same playlist for 4 days straight. Which luckily I like her taste in music, except for a couple of things. She doesn't listen to this podcast, so I'm safe.
She's so
but
supportive.
she has the whole Jungle discography on there, who I've become more and more of a fan of.
Mm-hmm.
And Busy Earnin' kept coming on over and over again. and that song was
I love that song.
just stuck in my head for 4 days straight. So I'm going jungle, busy earning.
Yeah,
Busy
I love that
Earnin'.
song.
I love that song and that
It's a
band,
really cool
especially if you watch their KEXP live. And it's unbelievable that they're doing all that stuff live. They're a pretty large band, and their drummer, Kara and I have actually talked about this before. Their drummer uses a really, really large hi-hat, which is how he gets that like
They
really
look like
kinda
ride
sound.
cymbals, basically, right?
Yeah,
They look like,
or crash cymbals. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like 2 crash cymbals stacked, but
They're like
sounds so good.
18s or something.
Yeah, I think they're 16s.
16s?
Maybe 18s.
Okay.
I mean, for a hi-hat, that's insane.
40s. They're 40s. They're very, very large. Yeah. Okay, I have my picks.
Okay.
Great.
I'm gonna do this.
That's
So my
right.
first pick is an artist from Norway, Suzanne Sundford. A song called White Foxes. I just love it. It's really, really good. Her voice is great, and the chorus line on that song when it hits the modulation is so bizarre and so cool, and it works perfectly, but it doesn't feel like it's gonna work. Very hard to sing without music behind it.
You've definitely chosen that before, but it's so good that it's
She
a worth a
deserves
repeat.
all the press she can get, and
Yeah, that's an oldie and a goodie.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
also I
She's
mean,
amazing.
we all know that Suzanne's a huge fan of the podcast, so I want to give her a shout out. And
Is
then,
this true?
Of course, it's true.
Oh.
Her and Obama listen to this
Dang it.
podcast
And Obama
Every
and
podcast.
together exclusively.
the list
Every
grows.
podcast.
Dolly Parton listens
Yeah,
to this
she's a big
podcast.
fan.
You can't say these things to me because I believe them every time.
Oh, it's the truth. I'm not lying. I don't know why
I
you
heard,
guys...
I heard Albert Einstein has been listening.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
What?
What an honor.
I don't know if it's true. It's just what I heard.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it must be true.
People
I
are
mean,
saying it.
Did you read it on Facebook?
Yeah, I think so.
That's that.
It's
It's
I think
true.
my
It's
I think my
definitely
aunt
true.
posted it. My aunt
Oh,
posted
definitely
it. So
true. Definitely true.
it's definitely.
This next one is for John. I heard it
Me?
by accident.
Mhm.
Yeah, I heard it by accident this morning. It's one of his favorite artists.
Oh,
I think he
God.
knows what I'm gonna.
Ugh.
Yeah, he knows.
Chicky,
He knows right
chicky,
now.
Boom boom or whatever. What the
Is it
hell it's
D.
called?
It is D.
Is this the
Atword,
John O'Clock
fatty
song?
It is D. Atword, fatty, fatty, boom,
Fatty
boom.
fatty boom boom.
He loves
Ugh.
it. One
Is it
day it's
Fatty
gonna grow.
Fatty Boom
What-
Boom or is
what's-
it Fatty Boom Boom?
Liam-
It might be fatty,
Liam.
boom, boom.
Remember on the recording tour where you set the alarm on your phone every day for 4 o'clock? And you called it John,
John
O'Clock.
Was it fatty,
And
boom, boom?
It played that song super loud on your phone, no matter where we were, like if we were at a cafe or in the car or like in a recording session.
For all of you people that think I'm a nice guy, I'm obviously kind of a dick sometimes, and
Well,
but you know, I mean, it left a great memory for all of us, so it was worth it. Yeah.
That's true.
luckily my music pick you'll hate, so I'll get revenge.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. Deal. I'd shake your hand, but I can't because you know.
You might not even know
Um,
what it is, but you'll hate it when you listen to it.
Oh, good. My third pick is a song that I wasn't gonna play last week, and then Laura was like, "You have to play it," and it became after doing it and then listening to the track, realizing that Frankie Valli has such a unique style. Like, you know, you think Frankie Valli, if you know who Frankie Valli is, you know, all that stuff. If you actually listen to those tracks,
Now they
they're
know.
really, really specific in their attack and in the way that they kind of like march. Yeah, but anyway, his whole set of songs is great, but Can't Take My Eyes Off of You. Such a phenomenal song. It has 3 different hooks in it. It's so fun to sing. It's so fun to listen to. So that's my third. And my last pick, which I have to check the song title, is...
How many do you get?
14.
He does whatever he wants.
Yeah,
It's
we
anarchy.
all do like 1 to 2. He does like 5.
Is
Yeah,
this whole
that's-
podcast just Liam recommending songs?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's
Sometimes.
Other
That's-
episodes that don't have like a strong topic, then we may each do like 4 or something. But usually when we
Yeah.
have like a topic, like we do
Uh-huh.
today,
So clearly
Well,
Liam
well,
doesn't think we have a topic today.
he doesn't follow the
Nope.
rules.
I don't. I'm
Liam's
a,
a
rule
bad
breaker.
boy, doesn't follow.
I'm
the
a
rules.
booster boob,
Yeah.
as they say. You know, it's just the way it goes.
Boozer boo.
The last piece I'm going to choose is off of an album called Chambers by Chili Gonzalez. If you guys haven't heard Chili Gonzalez, I've talked about him before. He's phenomenal. Kara, if you haven't heard Chili Gonzalez, this whole record is your jam. Like, it literally sounds, it's the only record I've ever heard that sounds like, when I heard it the first time, like it was, this is going to sound really corny, but it sounds like a memory. Like, it feels like a memory of my future. Like, it's very weird.
Sounds like a high school dance.
Yeah.
Seems
sounds,
a memory of my future.
It's a lot like crossing
2019 prom.
Backstreet Boys and John Cederlin.
That's like a
Experience.
Christopher Nolan type thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Inception 2, the memory of my future.
The
Can
song
you send me that? Can you text me that?
Absolutely not.
I think that's crazy that you haven't shown Kara that before.
I think I have. I'm pretty sure I have.
What's the song called?
Oh, maybe Kara hates it and was just like, fuck this.
Maybe I blocked it out.
I'm going to go with a song called Prelude to a Feud, sorry.
Prelude to a Feud.
But the first 2 tracks on the record, fuck it. Advantage Points as well is an amazing song. So both of those songs. And if you like it, there's a ridiculous performance that he did for La Blogatech that is mind-blowing because it's done live with just him and a piano and a string quartet. And it's like, it sounds so good and it's phenomenal. So check it out.
I love the way Blogatech videos happen.
You and I have had many convos about that.
Some of them are so good.
Yeah. Who's last? Is it Laura and John?
Yeah.
It is.
Who's going?
John, you want to go?
Sure. So, my pick is something that has been played over and over this week in the car by my girlfriend. So it's stuck in my head. Liam, you're going to hate it because it's from a musical. It's from Broadway.
Well, there's some Broadways that I actually very much love. And then there's some that I don't like. I love old Broadway. I don't like modern Broadway just because I don't like the enunciation. I don't like when they sing exactly like this. It's just too much for me.
But,
that's my problem with a lot of musicals. They like,
yeah, and this is not an exception to that. It's like, wait here, we gotta do this, please. Why won't you listen? He's evil. I don't know. I'm making shit
John,
up.
we should just do a podcast that's a John Cederlin musical, like improvisation.
Also, before I say my music pick, I just got a text from Laura with a new John word, John sense.
What is this, John sense?
It's nonsense except by me.
Is that like nonsense?
It's nonsense except by me, John sense.
My best work, though, is Jongical Visit.
Solid.
Anyway,
it conjures images.
I hate that so much.
Anyway, my pick is the song. It's called "Waving Through a Window" from the Dear Evan Hansen musical. If you like modern ass Broadway musicals, it is right up your alley. If you don't, you're gonna hate it. But stuck in my head, the guy is like, I forget who the guy who sings it.
Ben Platt? Is it Ben Platt?
Yeah.
He has an amazing voice.
Yeah.
Fun fact: the guy that played in that Broadway that I did the songs for.
Yeah.
So the songs that I sang were the actor that played, I guess, the character that sang my songs was one of the leads in a pretty popular traveling Dear Evan Hansen. Peter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
hi Peter.
tight.
What's up?
Wow.
There we go. Connections.
Are you done, John?
I'm done.
You just have one pick?
I do just have one pick. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So I have a couple. First of all, I know I've now gone into fangirl level with Miley Cyrus, but she continues to crush it, so I'm going to continue to promote what she's doing. She released a cover of Heart of Glass by Blondie, and it is so good. I mean, they're both amazing, and she's done she did a Cure cover recently. I don't know. All of her covers are so good. I mean, it's like she has nothing to do, and I guess she's not releasing her record yet, or I don't know, is stalling. So she's been doing all these covers, and they're all so good.
One thing I like about Miley's covers is that I've always felt like you can take 2 approaches to covering a song. You can either try to do it very different, or you can try to do it almost exactly the same and just kill it. And she tends to do it just very similar to the original, but just with her voice. So like the only difference is her attack. It sounds like Miley. And after you showed me that, there's another cover of it by the band Nouveau Vogue, which is this like, you've heard them. They do like covers of like 80s stuff. And they have a cover of Heart of Glass that's completely different. And yeah, both great for their own reasons. But Miley's been killing it, just putting herself out there to do the songs as the way they were written. It's awesome.
Yeah. My second pick is Mariah Carey, because she released a memoir of late.
Oh, I know what you're gonna do.
Do you?
No, I don't.
Anyway, so I'm picking the first Mariah Carey song I ever heard, which is still my favorite, and it's called Dream Lover, and it's an amazing song. Yeah, so it's such a jam. It's like the first track on that album, Music Box, I think, and she looks so glamorous on the cover. Love it.
Do you know what my favorite Mariah Carey song is?
Yes, I do. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Divorce.
What's happening?
Oh my god. Oh my
I
god.
have no idea what's going on.
I know it in my head, but I'll think of it. And
In the
when
original version, they repeat the words James Brown over and over again.
I'll remember. I'll
We'll
come
see.
back to it. We'll
see.
circle back. Okay, my final pick is Burna Boy, who's a Nigerian rapper. His song is called Monsters You Made. It features Chris Martin randomly. But I picked that because there is a protest movement happening in Nigeria right now. That's kind of an anti-police brutality movement that's happening, and it's like it's like bubbling up. It's been happening over the past couple weeks, and by the time this comes out, I think there will be more. But this artist's music is kind of a part of like a collective of artists that are seen as like being sort of anthems that are accompanying the protests. So I figured I'd throw it in there.
You know, just to pull back, Laura showed me something on that Mariah Carey note. She did an alternative record in the 90s.
Yes, she did. That came out in her memoir. She recorded a full late 90s
Like Alanis Morissette alternative album.
I actually think we talked about this on the podcast already.
I don't think we did. It's very strange, and it's not bad. It's like does not sound like Mariah Carey.
I'm curious
Wow.
about that.
That's crazy.
She spills all the tea in this memoir, and you know I'm going to be listening to it on the audiobook so I can hear her singing.
Hey, I have a second music pick.
Do it.
Do it.
So there's this band. They just dropped a music video this week for a song
my
called
God.
Pride.
That band sucks.
We'll have to add that song in a week to the playlist a week after, because it's
Right.
technically not going to be released on Spotify.
That's true.
Right,
So
right,
yeah,
or anywhere.
Spotify till after.
that's very true. Yeah.
Just rip it from YouTube and
yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? If you don't want to be a douche and hijack it, and if you want to support a good cause for the next 2 weeks, you can go to playlistforprogress.com. You can select it and download it and donate to fight some voter suppression. And get that new track. Well,
You know
we have to say one more thing before we move into the Pride video conversation.
Uh-oh.
This podcast is going to be coming out 6 days before Election Day.
Vote.
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 Please vote.
Vote.
Please vote.
Who
If you
here
want to
has
see
already
musicians,
voted?
I voted.
I've
We
already
voted.
voted. Yeah.
Owen.
Owen.
Voting in person.
Well, let's jump into this. So before we get into the actual video part, we should talk about Pride in terms of there's a few things I want to talk about. Okay, I want to talk about the fan reception in terms of like what they have taken from it because of how we released it, and then kind of how it started to kind of flow into an idea before we actually brought it to Kara. So let's talk about
You should talk about the song as you wrote it,
right.
and then let's talk sort of through like the video process, and then we can talk about the response.
Right. Okay. So,
And also, I should mention we have a lot of listener questions.
oh boy. All for John, about John Dissension.
Yeah, all about my mustache.
Yeah.
No, we asked for questions particularly related to this.
Okay.
And we got them.
so the war follows a story arc, and part of the theme of the war is the idea that pride is and I should mention that kind of my views on this have changed, not completely, but like I've kind of analyzed it a little bit more over the years since the song was written so long ago. But how pride is an essential part of what makes us shitty as human beings, essentially. But not all pride, more like uneducated pride, and how pride can be used to get us into terrible situations, like war, like fighting for nothing just because you feel the need to make someone proud or be proud of something when you don't actually understand what you're doing something for. And so the lyrical content, for me, is about the negative aspects of my pride. It's about the fear of failure and having to go home and like live, in my parents' house, like in the middle of nowhere, and like relive that situation. And over the years, I've looked at that and I've thought, well, there's kind of a negative trope behind that as well, because of the fact that it's not, I love where my parents live, and it's not even, it's just more just that idea of like the negativity behind your own pride anyway. But as the years have gone on, I've realized that, like, obviously pride can be a good thing. You should be proud of things that you actually deserve to be proud of, that are informed, and when we made this video, the actual idea of the video had nothing to do really with the lyrical content of pride whatsoever. Laura and I were on our honeymoon, and we were in Paris, and we were talking about different video ideas. And she was like, I want to make a video where we literally, as a band, we just turn the band itself into art. Maybe that seeped in because we were going to like, all these amazing museums throughout Italy and France and Spain. But
well, yeah, it was that. Also, we had some other video concepts that involved slow motion, specifically related to this song. And we knew we would not have the resources to execute those. So we were like, what else could we do that's like creative that could work? And then a lot of the artwork for the war involves this like war paint concept that Liam created, that's just like splashes of color across a page that are then incorporated into all of the album art. So I was thinking, like, what if we could try to do that like to the band? Well, yeah, my concept was paint, and then we had to find another solution.
And it kind of, it was this really organic thing of not even realizing how much it tied in with, at least for me, I didn't realize how much it tied into, not only the image of the band, but the imagery throughout the war. Because the idea of the war paint is, you're making something that sounds modern and but also sounds old. You're using this instrumentation that most people kind of think of old world, and you're using a songwriting style and some instrumentation that's very new world. And so I wanted the albums to look very much that way, where, on the face value, it looks like an older kind of cover. And then you open it up and you have this modern art piece. And in a weird way, that's kind of even how our band looks. We dress in very dark colors. The original idea behind the way we dress was to make it easy for like making everyone kind of homogenous on stage and not having kind of a hierarchy necessarily between our extended family and ourselves. And it's interesting because you're dressed like that, we actually have had plenty of parties or shows that we've played where people have thought we were wait staff, or people have thought we were like actually just like, going to like a music conservatory like show, because we were dressed in black. And then we get on stage and we bring this really modern and like hefty vibe, right? And so I didn't even think about that at all as Laura was mentioning this, and we let this percolate a little bit, and
Well, and I have
Yeah,
one
go
other
ahead.
thing that I was thinking about, like, if we're thinking about the concept of pride in the definition, the way it's applied to the song, which is like the negative aspect of pride,
right,
like, the way that you keep your pride in check is if like your ego is kept in check
Right.
too. And like, what better way to like display your ego getting checked than like literally having stuff pelted at you and capturing it on camera? There is some, like, you have no power if someone is like pelting stuff at you.
yeah,
Um,
it's true. And it's funny too, because at the same time, we have a friend, Darren, who he started as a fan of the band, and he had talked to me before, and he has a really amazing channel on YouTube that is all about slow motion. And
we'll put it lower third.
yeah, right here,
now.
John, right here. And basically, he had come up to me after a show and was like, if you ever want to do any kind of like collaboration, let me know. I'd just love to do something. And it kind of popped in my head, like, well, if we're going to be throwing paint or something of color, how could we make that interesting? And he had done this video that was skateboarders that they put like Holly powder on the skateboard, and then in super slow motion done these tricks. And I mean, it's so beautiful that it could easily be if somebody filmed that and brought it to MoMA, and I saw that on like in MoMA, I would completely buy it, be like, yeah, that's art, it's beautiful. And it besides that, brought attention to me, like watching a skateboarder do a trick like that. You never really understand how much skill goes into something as simple and as fast as a kickflip until you see the foot movement and until you see it happening. So it was a really beautiful video. And I messaged him and we started talking about like, how could we do this idea that Laura and I had. And again, the original concept was paint. And over time we realized that, well, he had so much to say. And he basically was like, well, at the end of the day, powder is going to be your best bet if you're trying to create something, because of the way it sits in the air with slow motion. Because if you throw paint, you're dealing with like globulars flying versus like a puff of something. So it's a far less dramatic. And so I had started talking to him, and I decided to call Kara, because I always call Kara, and asked, would you want to jump in and like help out with this thing? And then, Darren unfortunately he couldn't do it. And so he messaged me and graciously lent us his camera. And so 11th hour, we were literally on the way back from our tour, and we were supposed to do the shoot, I think in a week. And, Kara asked, why is it that we always do videos so fast? And this time we did it fast. We had a good reason. Most of the times, honestly, Kara, I'm going to give you an answer. The answer is because of your own damn success. It is 100% because of me. But I will say this: you had plans for this video months in advance. Like I did like a whole like research of like, I work really, really well under pressure. I mean, like that's every single time we're doing anything, if it's not under pressure, like I don't.
I'm glad one of us does.
Yeah, exactly. I don't perform as well. And so, unfortunately and luckily, Kara's willing to deal with my bullshit. But this time we were in this position where we had to get this thing done, and Kara's brilliant. And I basically called her up and was like, do you think you can learn to use this new piece of technology? And we have to come up with a completely kind of new idea and all these different things. And, one thing that I will say about our videos is, for whatever reason, there's kind of a magic that happens when it comes to like how things organically happen, even in these like crazy situations where we need a place to record and we need a, specific look, or we don't even know what we're going for, and we just happen upon the things that we need. I realized that if we're building up from like not being covered in anything to essentially being covered in everything, I wanted it to kind of feel like, to kind of bring it into the war, like kind of you're in a battle, if like the way it's filmed, I wanted to be a little more chaotic towards the end, and I wanted it to have that kind of like Saving Private Ryan-esque craziness going on. And that's all I could say to Kara.
Spielberg here.
That's all I could say to Kara, and she has to basically interpret my bullshit and go, okay, well, this is what's possible. But so anyway, Kara flew down, and I think, what did we have? Like 4 days to figure out how we were going to launch the stuff, how we were going to deal with wind, where we were going to record it.
For Pride, we also needed instruments.
Yeah,
tons of instruments,
and we couldn't use our own. And
yeah, you want to talk about the Craigslist situation? You want to talk about that?
So Laura hates my Craigslist thing. So basically, I was tasked with going out and trying to find instruments because originally the plan was to record it while we were on tour, up in Portland, but there was rain, and you can't throw powder in the air and have rain. So about a week before we left for tour. So yeah, okay, fine, you win. A week before we left for tour, we were like, let's try to shoot this thing. And I found a drum kit. Owen, did you find the violin? No, I found the violin.
You found the violin. I got a cello.
Owen found the cello. And all of these things had to be destroyed.
I still have the violin.
We still have the cello.
It plays surprisingly well.
Yeah.
The bass is in the rehearsal space. It's intact, pretty much.
Did we get the bass on tour?
I found the bass.
Yeah, Laura found the bass on tour.
John and I went and got it. Remember?
Yeah, and then me and
at a pawn shop in Laguna Niguel or something.
It's like nowhere. It was in San Fernando Valley.
Yeah, it was cheap because it had a defect. It like one of the tuning pegs wouldn't work, and I came in just to buy it. And like, and the guy was like trying to show me like what didn't work. I'm like, we're gonna destroy it. It's for a shoot. Like, and like, oh, okay. It was like, well, see, the weird peg doesn't work. Like, I don't care.
I don't even know if it could work. I mean, the neck on that bass is like made of balsa wood.
It was made of balsa wood. It was so like, if you notice my hard rocking abilities, I can't rock that hard normally with an actual instrument I play because it's a lot heavier than that bass was. It's made out of balsa wood, so it's like, so I was able to like pick it up with one hand and like, yeah, you know.
It's funny too, because because we thought we were going to attempt to record this on like the first day of tour, we had 90% of the instruments in the van for the entirety of tour.
We did.
Which was annoying to say the least. But
that
you should have just left them with me.
We didn't think about it.
That would have required thinking about it.
Yeah, we were thinking ahead of time.
Well, no, actually, I remember we did talk about this because we didn't know if we were going to be recording the video in Portland or in San Francisco. And I think at that point there was the idea of rescheduling to San Francisco, and we would have to go back up there and then come back, anyway.
But a question that we did get from a couple people was like, did the instruments get destroyed? And, did we clean them? What was the plan? And we basically, to be clear, all of them were not really, all the instruments that we used were not really playable. They had some sort of fatal flaw that made them, because none of us want to be destroying instruments. So all of them had a fatal flaw, and so none of them, so I guess the violin might be playable.
The violin's totally fine, actually.
Actually,
there you go.
Actually, the one instrument
it took me forever to clean it, but
the one instrument that unfortunately was in pretty good shape was the guitar.
That's the one we actually destroyed.
And that's when we actually destroyed. That thing just has dust on it and other stuff.
But on stage with the Family Crest, I play a vintage Yamaha, and I wanted to, if I could find a modern Yamaha, they make kind of versions of the old ones that are really cheap. And they do play actually surprisingly well. And that was kind of heartbreaking because it did play pretty well. But we needed a guitar for it. And I wanted it to be I wanted to give, a throw out to like what I play live. And so I went on Craigslist and I found a guy that weirdly enough lived a block and a half from Christian, our touring drummer. And so Christian went and picked it up for me. But yeah, we got all the instruments together. And then when Kara came down, I think the first question that we kind of tried to tackle was, I had this idea that we could, we had to...
Was it how to get the powder to go into the air?
Yeah, because I had this idea, we knew that if we
seems like an important bit.
Well, we knew that we had to have something to launch a good amount of powder. There might, the original idea was maybe we could throw some of it. but we needed something that could actually like spray it and launch it. And the research that I had done, we found out theoretically you could use fire extinguishers. So before we went to look for fire extinguishers, Kara and I went to this spot to test the wind, and we realized very quickly. Yeah, Kara's like she took a handful of powder and threw it in the air, and it was like gone. Yeah,
Bye.
If there was like any wind, this video wouldn't be possible. And so it was so much stress of like looking at the weather reports. Is it going to rain? Are we going to get COVID-19? And we're like, all right, so we need to find something to launch it. And both of us didn't know exactly how, because every video we found online of like how people used fire extinguishers with this powder didn't really tell you how to do it. And so, you know, now that we both understand it, we didn't have to go the route of buying new fire extinguishers realistically, but we found out that you can actually, well, Kara found out. I didn't understand it because I'm a dum-dum, but she was like, all you have to do is compress air into this thing. So if you get a bicycle pump and actually pump air, once you put the powder into the fire extinguisher, you'll have a certain amount of time, a certain amount of air to be able to shoot it. And it's not much, but because you're shooting in pieces, you know, you could do it. So I remember, and Kara testing this thing out. And I got to say, and Jerry knows this because Jerry spent the entire shoot playing with it, but there's nothing more fun than shooting holly powder out of a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, I have a bunch of video of Jerry just like, like having such a great time.
I still remember the sound that it makes.
Well, another thing we did also was we hadn't tested the like drum hit idea, and so before using any of the fancy cameras, we just like did a test with my iPhone in slow-mo, and we were like, oh god, is it gonna work? And then we watched it and we were all like, yes, like we got it, like it's gonna actually work.
Well, the hard thing was, you know, all the videos that you see of people doing
I knew it
this,
was gonna work.
You were the one sitting there being like, let's see what it looks like. I don't know.
This is why it works, because, you know, you can't have yin without yang. You have to have somebody that's like, it's gonna work, and you have to have somebody that's like, no, it's not, so that your expectations are set.
Well, it's also like, you don't, you know, unless you like do it and test it, you don't know how much like we didn't know how much powder to use. There were all these different.
I mean, one of my concerns was there is a video of somebody using powder with a drum, and in their video, their whole shtick was that the biggest blast you can get is actually hitting the drum from the bottom. So I think they took like rubber bands and they basically pulled it. And my concern was, you know, I really want this like a shot where you're hitting it and timing it. And I think actually I was the naysayer in this one, because the whole time that I was talking with Kara, she was like, no, this is going to work. This is how science works. You hit it, it's going to go everywhere, you know?
Science.
Also, I'm just a huge Mute Math fan, and something that Darren King used to do on his drum kit is like, there's always a drum break where he would take whatever was left in his water bottle and pour it all over his kit. And then like the next huge hit, when it comes in on this part of the song, it just explodes in water all over the place. So it's just like,
that sounds cool.
So
cool.
we spent I think 2 days basically just, you know, with me being like not stressed at all, well, stressed internally, but like not letting it out. Cause again, like you can't have two people that are hyper stressed. You just can't. And then, you know, when we did the shoot, I had these like big ideas for like, I want this like very big shot, and how are we going to get this big shot? And we'll get there, but we did it. I'll say that we got something fucking cool. And luckily John, I'm not going to say where we shot it, but John found us a spot, and, you know, it worked so well because we needed if you're working with color, you need a backdrop that is kind of stark and
very neutral, I guess. So is it,
yeah, like, well, and
neutral?
you need something that's consistent behind it.
Honestly, it feels kind of apocalyptic to me.
Yeah,
it kind of does. Yeah,
giant pile of rocks.
That location is sweet.
Little did we know.
And that was super last minute too, I think, right? Like day before.
It was. Yeah. Well, we were waiting. We won't talk about why, but we were waiting to the last minute because there was something going on.
It
we
wasn't
might not
possibly
have been able to
available.
use it.
Yeah.
But But before we even jump into the actual recording process, I mean, we were so fortunate to have Doug Pett on sax in that video. We used my sax from when I played sax in elementary school.
Oh, wow.
So it was literally 14.
That.
Yeah. It was literally like 14 sizes too small for him because it was like he plays a tenor and he's also a bigger guy, and it was an alto sax. And then we
Support
had
arts
like this on
education.
Javier Torres on drums. Javier is a beast. If you have a sec, check out. Kara introduced me to him, and he was actually going to come out and play with us in Europe. He is one of the nicest human beings I've ever met. B, actually, him and Doug are kind of the same. They're both the nicest people. They're both super, super talented, like two of the best musicians I know. And they both are the most humble people on the planet. Like there's like no ego there at all. And they're two of the best musicians I've ever met. And he was so gracious with his time and said he'd be willing to come up and play with us, and brought up some old cymbals for us to use. And of course, Jerry, who all of you guys know who Jerry is. You love him. Came out and played with us, and Jerry on the
cello.
The most fun dude ever. And Jerry, in my opinion, is close. He's not the number one because my wife's the number one best looking in the video. But Jerry looked really good in that video.
He's got that shot of him just like...
Jerry did look really good.
Jerry looked good in that video.
Jerry's so handsome. Follow him at Jerry Got Cello on Insta. He's been
babe.
Posting thirst traps
all quarantine
for so long.
Yeah,
and he's been playing. He's been playing cello suites in parking lots in front of a car, like empty parking lots. It's been his thing lately.
Yeah, he's a baller. But it was fun. I mean, like when we got there, I remember it was working pretty well, but then, again, we hadn't really, because we couldn't really plan out, we didn't have enough time, and we couldn't really plan out how we were gonna get scenes done. Like we knew, okay, maybe these fire extinguishers will do. I think we were banking on the fire extinguishers, but when we got there, we realized they shoot one spray, and you don't really have enough.
We wanted to right, but it's just kind of...
Well, you have enough powder for like the second fourth of the video where you're building, and then you can add powder, behind the scenes so that it, but to get to that big moment where we're in the cloud, we just didn't really know what to do the day of the shoot. And I don't know whose idea it was, but we came up with this idea. We came up with this idea. We were lucky because George Woods and April, right? George Woods and his girlfriend April showed up, and we had a few helpers. We get Carly.
The deliverer of the sheets was Carly.
Nice.
We also had Kim and Caitlin.
Caitlin. And Kim. So all the photos you see on our socials are Kim. What's her Insta?
All the photos
Kim
from the shoot of it.
I think.
Yeah. She's an amazing videographer, amazing human being, amazing photographer, and she graciously was like, I would love to help out on the shoot and like be kind of a second for Kara, so that like we have somebody else that's kind of like helping out with all these things. And
other shout out, we used her camera.
Yeah.
Yes.
We shot with her FS7 because I left mine in Portland. Not because I didn't want to get it dirty, but I don't even know why. I just remember Kim was like, you can use my camera. I'm like, sweet.
I think it was because we had talked about needing a second camera that was, because I know we had talked about this before you came down, because we were talking about, well, we can't shoot everything on the slow-mo camera. For people that don't know how these things work, one second?
Kara, can you explain the limitations of those cameras?
Yeah, so Phantoms are like, they're more scientific instruments than they are cameras. They don't really work the way a normal camera works. They shoot to an internal buffer, and they have a hard drive that you put inside it, essentially to the point where the camera is always recording on the buffer, and then you hit the record button as like an end marker. So it just, when you hit the button, it like records what happened for the last 4 seconds, like in the past. So that way you don't waste a bunch of time, because these things are shooting like anywhere from 600 to like 20,000 frames per second. And so if I were to like go, okay, ready, and then hit record and then say go, and then you do your thing in that amount of time, that's like 25, 30 minutes of footage in like the couple seconds before you actually do the thing. So you just wasted 30 minutes waiting for someone to do it. Yeah. So it's like,
so for people,
they're really strange.
For people who don't know, can you like how many frames per second are like in a movie, like or a TV show?
So in a normal video, in like every other video we've done, it's 24 frames per second. So if you were to shoot 240 frames per second, then 1 second of real life action is 10 seconds in the camera. If you're shooting at 2,400 frames per second, then 1 second in real life is, let's see, 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Yeah.
So,
and in terms
just
of,
for
you know,
just for a quick action, like John kicking the dust, you know, like that's like a 2.5 minute video clip of just
also,
kicking dust really quick.
In terms of space too, that's something to talk about, because, you know, if you're storing that much footage with high quality image, I mean, how much space would you say, like, all the slow-mo footage that we shot, or let's say this, what we used in the video, like how many gigs did we end up using?
Not actually that much. I think it was only like a couple hundred. Because again, you're being very selective about your buffer. You're not just hitting record and letting it go. You're setting it all up. You're getting the buffer going, and then you do the action. And once I see it on the camera, I clip it, and then it records in hindsight. So like it records after it's happened.
But
so you don't just like waste footage.
In terms of like space though, like if you're talking, because we're talking about seconds. So like if we used, how many seconds of slow-mo footage, you can't, like, would you assume we used?
Oh, gosh.
And how many gigs did that take up? Because I think that's the equivalent, you know, like,
yeah, I would say every super slow-mo shot in the video combined in real time was like 10 seconds of footage.
And how many gigs do you think that was?
But in that 10 seconds, that was 10 seconds of real time action, which ended up being like, like 10 minutes or more of actual footage of just those slow motion moments.
Right. Which is a lot of gigabytes. But also the other thing too is that those cameras don't shoot super high resolution either. So like, and they don't shoot crazy high bit rate like other cameras that are like 4K and RAW and stuff. Like the job that I'm on right now is like 8 terabytes of footage. Yeah.
Yeah, and
like
that's for like a 20-minute episode. It's 4K. It's 4K raw stuff.
Oh,
and
raw.
Yeah, so like I just upgraded my RAID box to be 32 terabytes because like I need that. But this video was like 500, 600 gigs total. Like it wasn't that bad.
Not as bad
for
considering.
Yeah. So to get the big shot,
it was a 1-day shoot. It was like a half-day shoot. This video it was very quick.
To get the big shot, my original hope, I had 2 shots that were like the big ones in mind, that I was like, you know, we need to fill the space, but I have 2 shots that I think we have to have. One was the guitar smash, and one was the reveal, which is, you know, towards the end of the video, when everything kind of goes into cut time. And, you know, I had done a lot of research on like, okay, could we theoretically like get something to shoot stuff into the air, and could we do this? And then we realized very quickly.
Some pyro.
Yeah, basically. We realized A, it would be too expensive. B,
we were trying to hook up like an air compressor to a pipe that had little holes in it so that we could actually make explosions happen. Like, right. That was thought for like a day.
But I remember you realized though that you're like, in order to get footage of this that's going to actually work, and B, stunning. I mean, A, even if it works, you're going to have to launch it in a very specific way so that you actually capture the explosion and not just the dust that follows in the slow motion shot. Because, if you launch this stuff out and like it needs to go at the same time, and how do you, then you need 2 air cannons because you can't really,
You have to be so accurate.
And you'd have to be so accurate. And so I remember we were like, well, we know we need to get a shot that's a big reveal, and we're just going to figure it out day of because we just ran out of time. I think the last night before the shoot, we actually were up till like 3 a.m. just trying to get the software for the camera to work because there were some issues with the software.
Yeah, I had blocked that out.
Yeah,
everyone was trying to download. I remember I was trying to download the software.
Phantom cameras, like don't figure out your camera a day of the shoot. It's just not a good idea. Like,
you called me in the morning. You're like, "What kind of laptop do you have?" Uh-oh.
I was like, "Do you have a Windows or a Mac? Because we need a Windows computer."
Yeah, it was pretty like the night before. We were just like, okay, well, and I remember one of the shocking things to me that I learned from Kara that night was she was explaining to me how expensive not just the camera itself, but just like the things that come with the camera. Like, for example, the camera itself is like a $60,000 camera or something.
Yeah, it's actually one of the cheaper Phantoms.
Right. That's what I remember hearing. Like, it's like a $60,000 camera, but it's a cheaper camera. Mm-hmm. Like, I know Darren has like another one that's like way nicer that like, and that's, I don't even want to know how expensive it is. And I can't even imagine, Kara, like how scary that must have been traveling with. But she was telling me that like the cable that you get for some of these cameras, just like a cable that's like this big or like this big, is like what, $800 or something?
Say that again.
How much was it? You were saying like a cable for this thing that's like this big.
So I've owned and operated most cameras in the industry at this point, like at some time or another. And like when I was using a lot of Red platform stuff, like a single monitor cable that was 8 inches long for a Red camera that just goes from the body of the camera to the monitor so you can see what you're shooting, was like $280.
Yeah.
It's proprietary, so it's like
like that long. Yeah, exactly. Proprietary. It's like these little 9-pin things.
Yeah. So anyway, we're at the shoot. We hadn't figured out how to do this thing. We had been very, again, I do attribute this to, and there is I know everyone in my life hates me for this, but like, I don't just do this because I'm lazy or anything like that. Like part of the reason I do this is, and it is maybe for my own benefit, but like I know that we do well and I do well, at least. Maybe I am selfish. I do really well when I have to think on the spot, when I'm put in this position where it's like, because I'm super ADD. I'll go in tangents everywhere if I'm thinking about it weeks before. But if I'm in the space when I'm composing or when I'm creating, that's when I'll actually get stuff done because I have to make a decision.
The thing that sucks is that like I'm that way too. I just get so stressed. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but like I had a complete breakdown during this. I was crying for like 15 minutes and just trying to hide it from everybody.
Yeah, because you don't. Wow. Well, I mean, that's the thing too. Like,
I'm sorry.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, like Liam and I got like a little mini fight, and then I was just like, I like was really having a hard time like getting my emotions in check. It was a really stressful day, but at the same time, despite the stress, like it always works out.
It all worked out. Yeah.
I think the key thing again is like for me, when we're in a situation and we have to make something work, it's like it's either going to work or it's not. And I always go into something with the expectation that I want the best, but it could totally fail. Everything in life can totally fail, And so I could either give up when I get distressed, which I'm distressed all the time. I mean, 2020 is the pinnacle of that. Or you just persevere and you don't fail until you fail. And you just have to aim and look at like, yes, we can get this done. And like, that'll allow you to see every possibility in front of you in terms of what you can do and be as creative as possible, you know? And the other hard thing was we're shooting in slow-mo, but we have very limited amounts of time to do this before, you know, you want the light to be the same. You want, because you're dealing with actual sunlight, you know, it's cold. You're dealing with the fact that you can't retake something because, you know, for continuity
once
in this shot,
once the powder's
out, I'm covered in pink, you know, so like we can't reshoot something. So you have to basically be thinking on the spot very quickly of like how you're going to get something done. And I remember we got to this point where like we had kind of been avoiding it, I think, in a weird way, even though we knew it was coming. Like, how the fuck are we going to get this big scene done? And that's when I realized, as I'd been watching the footage, that like it really did kind of encapsulate this battle-like feel in these very fast-moving shots. And I was like, well, we don't necessarily need. Originally, my idea was like, we want color and want the consistency and like the kind of separation of color everywhere, so it looked like a rainbow exploding. And I realized, well, we want the mixing and we want all sorts of things happening where it looks more like a dust cloud of chaos and color. And so we took, and I think Owen's girlfriend Caitlin enjoyed this a little too much, but we gave Caitlin and Carly the fire extinguishers filled with stuff and told them essentially to spray us wherever the hell they wanted. And then we had George grab this thing with his lady and we covered it in a rainbow pattern. We
laid a sheet on the ground.
Yeah, so we took a sheet.
We put piles of the powder
in different colors.
In sequence. Yeah.
And this is a lot harder to do than it seems. We also had to decide what side it was going to come from based on what direction the wind was going. So we started on one side and then the wind shifted. And so we had to reshoot on the the side.
Oh yeah, we launched an entire sheet full of powder that just went the wrong direction once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very sad.
Yeah. So we covered this thing in powder and you have one shot. And basically I told Kara, like, because we were trying to figure out how to do it. I'm like, I didn't know if it would work. And I was like, well, if you whip the camera and we just go into action, theoretically in that time period, if you're whipping it like this, you'll see everybody and you'll see this stuff happening at one time, right? And so we put little pieces of powder all over all of our bodies and like basically prayed that the wind wouldn't take it off before we did the shoot. And then Kara's like 3, 2, 1, and we all had to move as fast as humanly possible to get that shot, you know, while Kara's moving as fast as she can and keeping everything steady. You know, it was... that's a really good device for like kind of making sense of how high speed the camera is. Cause like that pan in the middle, like the back third of the video that goes across everybody super slow, it was like literally the fastest I could possibly move it.
You just go,
so I was like holding the camera and it was like 3, 2, 1.
Did you use the slow-mo camera for that?
Yeah.
That was the Phantom, right?
Yeah.
Duh, yeah.
Well,
totally.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, because I know, because we also
like literally still.
no, but I remember like Kara had the brilliant idea of like some of the shots in slow-mo. I could be wrong, but I remember some of them were shot
all
on
the stuff like during the actual like bridge. Is it the bridge? I can't even remember. I haven't seen the video in so long. But but when all the color stuff's going off and there's like little bits of slow-mo in there, like a lot of that's just 240 frames, or no, not 240. It's like 180 frames per second on the
just
FS7.
shot on the Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's just like regular person slow-mo.
Yeah, it's just the only Phantom shot at the end. I think it's just that whip shot, right? And that just goes to like normal stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
In that ending like section.
Oh yeah, in that ending, I think the whip. I have no idea actually. I haven't seen the video in 5 months, 6 months, or something like that. So
it came out. You didn't watch the video?
Why do I have to watch it? I made it.
Yeah. Hold on.
I shot it. I edited it.
Yeah.
I colored it.
Yeah.
I gave it to you, and I have not seen it since.
To be fair, because I totally understand where she's coming from. Because like when I do a record, like I'll work on it for some like years, right? And then once I release it, I think when we released Brine, I don't think I actually listened to Brine for at least a year, if not two. Like I
feel
listen
the
to
same.
pieces because like
Totally. I
you
go
kind
back
of,
and look at like Love Don't Go now.
yeah,
Mhm.
totally.
Okay.
Once I complete something, it's kind of like, it's not that I don't want to listen to it. It's just that like it
You just move
kind of
on.
helps
I
with,
don't know.
yeah,
like,
it just helps with like, because there's a release once you do it. Once you pin it, and then once it's released, there's this kind of like,
yeah.
anyway. But yeah, I think that like that shot to me, I remember doing that, and then I think we did it like 2 times. But
Mhm.
I just remember thinking like there were like all of us were praying because it was an idea. It wasn't like this is gonna
Yeah.
work. We know it's gonna work. It was like
And
I think this
also,
is gonna work.
something to just like add to it, the whole day, part of the reason for the stress is like we were racing the sun the whole day. It
Yeah.
was like we have until the sun goes down to figure out everything. And if you like spend too much time trying to make sure everything's going the way you want to up front, then you run out of time in the back half, and the back half is like the important half. So
Right.
and on top of that, anytime we did all this slow motion stuff, there's like a 6-step process to recording a clip with the Phantom camera.
Right.
It's like boot up the camera, set its black balance, that takes a while, start the buffer, that takes 10 or 15 seconds, and then like you get a clip, and then it has to like load, and you can play it back, and then once you're like, oh cool, we got what we need, you hit the save button and it writes it to the memory card, and you're just sitting for like 2 minutes while it does that, because it's like such a long clip.
Yeah.
And like we're racing the sun, and it's just like, okay, are we ready to get to the next shot? And I'm just sitting on the ground with the Phantom, like waiting for it to process the shot.
Right. Make
And
sure it's
like
saved.
exactly, and like you can't do anything until you move on. And
Yeah.
and
And
then
you're
if
also
there's too
dealing with
much
7
going
people.
on, like then you forget if you saved the clip or not, because then you have to clear the buffer to keep shooting with it, and you're like, what? did I save it, or did I like is it safe
hard
to
to
clear?
check?
I can't.
It's
You
hard.
can't
Is it hard
check.
to check? You can't
Yeah, you
check
I mean,
after it's saved.
you can. It's just very hard. Like I said, this isn't
Right.
like a consumer friendly
Yeah.
camera where you just go like, oh, let me hit play on this really quick. Like it
Right.
just doesn't work that way.
That's part of the reason we needed that software the night before, just to get the videos onto the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, that was
literally
the whole-
just to hook it up to a computer, the card reader, just to hook the card reader into a computer required some crazy obscure piece of software that we could only get to run on one computer out of all of ours.
Yeah.
Like it,
It was-
wasn't
it was
working
a-
on
Yeah,
anybody's.
we all downloaded it. I know I downloaded it.
And
Yeah,
remember,
dude.
you're dealing with
It's my
you're dealing
gaming
with
laptop,
7
baby.
You're dealing
Oh.
with 7 people that you're trying to keep, because you're doing singular shots. Every singular shot you see, like Laura's hair flip, which is the best shot in the video probably. Laura's hair flip was like 10 to 15 minutes of time to not only devise what we're going to do, to test what we're going to do, and then to get the best take of what we're going to do. And
Yeah.
during that time, you have 6 other people that are just waiting. And so obviously, like, as people are waiting, they're going to go do their own things, and it takes time wrangling people again, you know?
Musicians
Well,
wander.
let's we have like a lot of questions. I want to be
Well, wait, I want to talk about one last thing. One last thing. It'll
okay
be quick.
because I also want to talk about all of our favorite shots in the movie.
Right,
video.
right. So I know people are probably wondering about the guitar smash and how that was done. And that was the second shot
That
that
is
was
a listener question.
right. So there you go. So that was a really important shot to me. I thought that was going to be the last shot in the video. And Kara was like, no, we should put this at the beginning of the video because it works better in this way. And I knew if you ever watch somebody smash a guitar, it's not you smash a guitar. It's not that simple. The only person I've seen successfully do it on stage and make it look badass was probably Win Butler. When
In
he
fact,
was on,
there's a lot of videos, compilations of
failures.
people failing at trying
Right.
to smash a guitar and looking like an idiot because
yeah,
of it.
because the thing is, a guitar is like a boat. It's well built, and it's made to sustain drops. It's made to sustain damage. You know what
Did
I
you
mean?
just say it
And-
was like a boat?
Well, yeah, if you look at the inside of a boat and you look at the inside of a guitar, it's kind of similar. They have like lines of wood and they're built in a specific way to kind of like hold them together, you know? So basically, watching Win, one thing that I realized is his strings were, so he broke a string on stage, and his way of dealing with breaking a string on stage at the very, very end of one of his songs during his, I think, Neon Bible era was, I'm going to smash my guitar on stage. So he ripped the strings off the guitar before he smashed it. So he removed any kind of tension there. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. But so the first thing that I thought was, all right, we're going to remove the tension from the strings. So we're going to loosen the strings. We're going to drill holes in the guitar and kind of pre-break it. Because if you watch people break guitars, the first strike, they always end up with like a crack, right? But it never breaks. And then once they do break it, if they're trying, you don't get the like chaos break that you want. Which actually, oddly enough, our video doesn't show the break. I don't think.
We withhold that.
Yeah.
We withhold that.
You have to figure that out for you have to imagine that yourself.
I was like, well, why don't we drill holes in the guitar on one side, and then we'll fill the guitar itself with the powder, and then put some on the top of it, so we have a starting point. And then when you swing it, you'll have that starting holly flying off of it, and then hopefully, if you do it right, the rest of the powder will come in. So we did it once, and it worked, but then the first swing, again, you're dealing with just cracking the guitar. You know, I swung it hard, but I guess I'm not strong enough to slam it and crack it into a billion pieces. So we did it, and it just left a big gash in the back kind of bridge of the guitar, and the butt of the guitar. And so Kara's like, let's do one more, because A, when you hit it now, it's going to smash. And B, you have a big hole. So all this powder is going to fly out of it now. So we filled it up, and we did it. You know, again, my idea was we'll fill it with one powder and go. And Kara's like, no. We're going to fill it with multiple powders in a specific like layer. And I remember, I don't think you remember this, but you were like, we should do it in this specific color setting, because when they come out, they'll be in like non-corresponding colors and you'll see it more.
Yeah.
You probably don't remember. You're like, yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember.
Yeah. So we filled it, and then we took the swing. And I got to say, of all the things musically that I've done, that's in my top 5 most fun things to do. I mean, who gets to say they smashed a guitar with rainbows flying out of it? I mean,
yeah, that came out like so much cooler than I thought it was going to.
Yeah.
That was like so much. Because I remember you got really excited when the guitar was even more smashed up. You're like, now it's going to come out even better.
And it wouldn't have worked without that giant gash, I don't think.
Wow, I think it's going to be too much. I mean, the first take was all right before it got like extra messed up.
It
but
needed
with, like,
that gash.
The huge gash in it. Yeah.
And we were lucky, because the front end of the guitar, which every video I've seen, the front end never breaks, weirdly enough. Probably because it's braced. The back
that was
of the
the
guitar
last shot we did, right?
Yeah.
The walking away is last.
The walking away?
The walking away was the last shot, because it has the broken guitar in it.
Oh,
but
that's right. Yeah.
I remember like when we did it the second time, that the weirdest thing for me was you can't just think about it like, I'm going to smash the guitar. You need to think about the arch, because that's the whole point of it. So you have to
the wide swing.
And I remember like we ended up, I don't know if it was that we drilled it the way that I wanted to swing it, and the way we ended up swinging it based on like my right hand. I think I drilled the holes on the wrong side, so I had to swing it on the opposite side. But yeah, it worked out.
Okay, so I want to know first what everyone's favorite shot of the video is.
Like after it was released, like what our favorite scene in the thing is.
Yeah.
I mean,
my favorite shot, I texted Laura about this right up front. Like as soon as I started looking at the footage, I was like, the shot of you looking up at the camera with the wind blowing in there is easily my favorite shot of the whole video.
That's a good shot.
That is.
You're a total cinematographer though, like, because you're also really, really brilliant photographer. So like, I've always noticed when you look at things, you see it through that lens as well.
Yeah.
I think I got to keep thinking. You guys go. I got to think.
I like Laura's hair flip. That's just, that's dope.
That one, I didn't think I didn't think that one was any like more impressionable than like the other slow-mo shots. Like I think the one where the powder hits Owen is like so gorgeous. Like,
oh, that's a great shot.
He's just like completely like ensconced in blue is so stunning to me. But yeah, the
People
hair
like
flip
that,
has
for
been
sure.
the most like
they
called
love
out
that. Yeah,
thing
yeah.
on.
It's
social
funny that
media
you
for
bring up
sure.
the
Yeah,
that shot of me, because like it's just so funny like how cool and beautiful it looks in slow-mo, and then in fast motion I'm just standing there and my girlfriend just points a fire
Real
extinguisher in my
life.
face and it's like boom. And then she's like
Yeah, really
and
quick.
you're trying to like get it out of your eyes. You're like, I hope that looks cool.
Yeah,
You know,
try not
I
to
think-
flinch. Yeah.
I think my go ahead.
Sorry. I was just
No, go ahead.
I was just thinking that reminded me that like the most vivid memory I have of making this music video is like setting up the Phantom camera and getting it ready and then being like, all right, here we go. And the person's like in clean clothes and it's the first time they get hit with stuff. And then like someone would just like haul off with either like a couple fistfuls of powder or like the extinguisher, and they would just miss. Like
Yeah.
they would like they would just like hit like half
But
the
get you
face
just
and
enough.
go up, and it's just and then now they're just covered in color, and you have this like feeling of dread because you're just
Yeah,
like,
that was the one chance
our
with
one
clean.
chance, and we missed.
Yeah.
But you know what though? That's another interesting example of like having to work through
Yeah,
creatively, like
that's
the
how it
moment,
goes.
because I remember there was a moment where there was the freak out about that. And I was like, well, we're just gonna have to use that in a different scene, because you have to rely on kind of the user's idea of like, well, everyone's getting covered in color. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to use it later in the video. John,
I mean,
yeah.
I have like 3 shots that
You
I
can't
love.
take 3?
I love the shot of John.
You can't take 3 shots. I have to go
Jumping.
last. You're just gonna pick every
Oh,
good
I
shot.
love John
I
jumping
enjoy that.
too. I
John
will add that as
jumping.
a second.
I enjoy
I
that too,
love-
but I can't pick myself because like I like when
It
you
is a good
need
shot.
I think the
I do.
best.
you know.
My favorite like look up is Jerry.
Jerry.
I think he
Yeah.
looks so beautiful in that
the little
shot.
things falling off of him.
Oh my
Little
God,
particles that you wouldn't see really otherwise
then-
if it wasn't slow motion.
I like the shot where it's like everything is everywhere and Kara did something with the camera where it seems very chaotic. I don't know. It's like the second verse
Yeah.
or the second chorus.
I-
Oh,
I
there's
think.
just a jump cut to a different shot that's similar but not quite.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be basic as AF. And, you know, I remember viscerally seeing, once we got home, seeing the shot that, cause you know, we didn't know. That's the thing. You're
Oh,
like,
the
Phantom
pan?
shot.
yeah, like
the
we
one,
kind of,
yeah.
I mean,
we
someone
had-
has to pick the panning shot.
man,
'Cause that's
when,
like,
when we got home, when we got home and saw the pan, and it was amazing. And then once Kara color corrected it and like brought up to the saturation, and you just see like this literally second in time stretched out, and
15 seconds long.
yeah, it just was like everything I wanted it to be and more. Like, I mean, also I think like the colors that we chose to put on everyone, like really, like Jerry in blue and having that flying off of him and like the pink in the middle, it just worked so well. I think my 2 favorite shots that we filmed were Jerry when we did the walk away,
Oh, and he throws his
He
bow.
tosses-
because
Bow.
Jerry.
we're all supposed to
Jerry,
pick our
one of my
favorite shot. You
things
guys
about
just
Jerry
picked
is that
9 before I
he's-
got to pick 1.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
you know, I'm sorry. That's how
So
we
that's
do.
my favorite shot. My
Jerry
favorite shot
is
was the
like a
walking away
very,
part
like-
with Jerry and the bow.
Well, no, okay, fine. That's great. That's great. That's
Stand
not,
up for yourself.
I'm gonna
Owen.
mute
Don't
him.
let them walk all over you.
Us walking is not my favorite shot. My favorite thing about that is that Jerry's so excited about just doing new things. And I think there was a psychological thing there, because Jerry's like, can I throw my bow? And I was like, yeah, do what you want. And he was so excited to toss his bow that the first take we took, he was like almost like it was like a problem that he was doing it. So it looked, you know, so we took it a second time. But I just remember him being so excited about that it was amazing. And my other favorite shot was the chaos shot, because in all of our videos, we never have had a chance to actually like do what we do on stage and rock out with one another. That's the best part of being on stage, is playing with one another. Like my favorite moments on stage usually are when I get to like turn around and like play with John. and like actually like kind of yell at each other and kind of play with each other. And that's the first video that we've ever been able to do that. And while you had to kind of do it with your eyes closed half the time because you didn't want to damage your vision, and you had to do it not breathing because, you know, it's a weird mix of being blind and not being able to breathe because you're just
look cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You know, you can't breathe in, you can't see. But I remember there was a moment that I turned and I was playing to John and I had my eyes open and shit's flying in my eyes and I didn't care. And it was just like it's the most real Family Crest video in my opinion, because that's what we try to bring on stage, and it felt like we were on stage.
Yeah, I would say the big, like the shot with the big shot, like the one,
the
right?
pan.
I like purposefully embargoed it for the first couple days of the release of the video because I remember seeing it hit in the video the first time and I literally gasped.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know that other people were going to have that moment too. And if you like put it out there right away, even though it's like an amazing shot, like it kind of takes away from that moment, which is like where the cut time hits, and it's so
I think the most amazing thing to me every time we do a video, and I'm it's not even the shooting. Like I know that every video we do, and when I say like when Kara and I work together, every video we do is going to have some element of chaos involved in the creation and the actual like filming of it, right? But I'm always amazed that we always get what we're looking for, but more than anything, that Kara, you're able to edit it so quickly. I've never seen anyone be able to work that fast and that well, where, you know, it's probably like attributed to your ability, again, to kind of like cut through the bullshit and to have a good memory. And, you know, not a lot of people have that. I mean, that's one of the things that I wish I had more of, like when I'm doing anything, you know, like I overthink things. And I think it's amazing that you're able to take something that like we spent so much time on, and you're the only person in my life that I can think of that I would be like, all right, well, if Kara gets me an edit in an hour after the shoot, when I get it, I'm like, it's probably going to be perfect, because you just have this ability to kind of hone in on what, and visually and artistically hone in on it and go, yeah, this is exactly what it needs to be, and get it done. And I think you needed to take a breath after. So you took a little more time than usual and took a day. And then you sent us the video and you were like, yeah, it's edited. And this was the first video shoot that I'm like, I don't know if she's going to have it edited that quickly. And I don't think we had any changes. I think it was kind of like,
I think it was just like,
there it is. Like, how else?
I think you pointed out two places where what was being played on camera wasn't quite synced up well. So it was just a question of like rolling an edit.
Musicians always see that in videos. They're like, that's not the part where I play that.
And that's like, I do a lot of music videos. I do a lot, and live performance videos especially. And my least favorite part of the process, but it's so necessary because the players are looking for something different. But it's just like, I've done stuff for kind of like more prog rock type bands, like really technical type bands, like Rare Futures, when I did their live series in the studio. Like,
super good.
The drummer comes back with actually the fill that you hear isn't the fill that I'm playing. And like, I'll watch it, and like, I play drums and I know exactly what he's playing, and I'll watch it over like 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, how can you tell?
Yeah,
like I'll change it if it makes you feel better. Are you hitting
a kick drum in a different place? We can't even see that.
It's that. It's like, well, you can see that my knee kind of moves a little bit, but there's no note there.
I think that's the hardest part as a musician to doing a music video. Like for me at least, the hardest part is that when I'm on stage, you know, I have always taken it as like certain, you know, obviously if I fuck up, but certain words are replaceable. I don't have to sing the exact same thing. I don't have to say, oh, I could sing oh or hey or, you know, or skip it. Yeah, exactly. Like that, it's kind of dependent on my mood. And I like that because it kind of is real. And when you're shooting a music video, you have to have every lyric correct. And again, Pride, we had we were just waiting for like the final master of it and getting it ready, and I hadn't listened to it in a while, and I had to basically memorize everything the night before, and that was hard. Before we jump into questions, Kara, what was your favorite shot from the whole video?
Oh,
She
I
said, all right.
I said mine.
Oh,
it
you
was,
did.
It was Laura's
The hair
glam
flip, of course.
moment.
Right.
Not the
No.
hair
the
flip.
glance, the glance.
Just
Oh my-
her glance.
I'm
I just
tired,
think
y'all.
that she looked so beautiful, and she looked so peaceful and
Oh.
serene, and like there's just, I don't know. I just
You did
love
look
it.
very
It's
serene.
My favorite image.
It's my life. It's my life.
I think I'm gonna
It like reminds
piss
me of,
everybody off. I'm gonna use that GIF as like a response to anything anyone says to me, good or
Yeah,
bad.
totally.
What
Just
was
like
the-
send
Good
that
idea.
as a response.
What was the thing that you just put online that was furious?
Oh, when you tell me you haven't voted yet, like
The gift works perfect.
I'm gonna vote in person. I said I would.
yeah.
All right,
Well-
so
In
So let's do
terms
some of
of
these
in terms of
questions.
questions, so I
Oh.
have a couple Discord ones, but they've already been answered. So I'm going to say what they are, but we've already answered it in the span of this episode. So that'll get rid of these. Ellie from the Discord asked who came up with the idea of exploding powder. I'd love to hear how the idea came out with Pride. We've already covered that. How was it to be pelted by powder? Which it was weird. And the
It
stuff
wasn't as
about the
bad as I thought
location,
it was
so-
gonna be
It-
though.
I think the hardest part was like you have to remember that you can't really breathe in.
Yeah.
And so like in the slow-mo shots, it's not bad because you're getting hit once, right? But in the big scene, you have to not breathe and or like really be cautious of like turning your back and be
Well-
aware of where the wind is going. And
I think that like
pelting
someone
shot
needs to give you a little bit of props, because I think for anybody watching, like imagine somebody so you're just like going about your day, and imagine someone comes up to you and from 2 feet away point a fire extinguisher directly in your face. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna count down from 3 and we're gonna pull the trigger, and like
Yeah, play violin.
don't squint.
yeah,
like
that was
just
actually
look
hard.
cool. So it's just like, yeah, that's not an easy task at all. So like, especially also, we're gonna film it, and we're gonna film it in slow motion. So don't look like
At all, yeah.
like a cat being sprayed with water or something, you know?
Well, I remember
um,
like when we did that, like specifically with like Carly and Caitlin, we had this moment of before we actually shot that shot, we asked them, who are you going to spray? And then can you spray us so that we can, know what it's going to be like, get used to it, because I remember there was one moment in that scene that I turned around, and got a face full of like blue paint or dust, like just right in my face.
Oh,
And
was that
luckily
George? Did he pelt you? I think George went right for the eyes with somebody.
Yeah.
right.
Get him in the eyes. Yeah.
I ruined my pelting shot. Actually, it's because I was like,
I remember. Yeah.
So,
That
but
was a learning
luckily we have the
experience.
cool shot of me jumping, so it's like we can just go straight to that. We'll just
Yeah.
But my
Oh,
shot was
yeah,
That's
crappy.
right. Yeah, you're totally
I was like,
squinting. Yeah.
that sounds like a slow motion shot of me. No.
Dude, it took so long to get all that stuff out of like your nose and ears too.
That's been a question. That's one of the.
What's the
A couple
question?
people
3
asked the
days.
question, like, how long did it take to get the powder out of your
Really?
hair and your nose and your ears and your eyes?
I was shocked at how, because my fear was, we had to also buy clothes for this shoot. I went home to Calaveras to go through my old clothes to find black clothing that people could wear, so we didn't have to buy new stuff that was going to get ruined. I also didn't know if it would come out in like a washing, because everything I read was a mix of like, yes, it will come out. No, it's going to stain it. Fun fact, at least with us, it comes out of
In the wash,
everything,
yeah, it comes out
especially
really
if it's
well.
dark. But the one thing I will say, and I got to give them props for this, I had messaged, I've always worn Gorin Brothers hats like throughout our band. I worked for Gorin years ago. I love that they make, amazing hats that are affordable. And I messaged them and I was like, I'm doing this shoot. Would you guys, be willing to give me a hat for the shoot? And They did, and it was really heartbreaking because that's, that hat is my favorite hat, hands down, that I've ever owned. And I took it on multiple tours, and when you can't wash a hat, once it's on a hat, you can get it, you can brush it, but it's going to be there. And after the shoot, in fact, I'll go get it before the end of the shoot. I still have it in the quality that it was in the shoot. I'm trying to figure out how to actually keep it that way because it looks beautiful as hell. But they did supply me with another hat that I could wear in the band. But yeah, other than that, like for me at least, getting the stuff off, it was just a shower and a wash of the clothing.
I had to take a Q-tip to all the cameras.
Yeah. Well, and to my nose and my ears. Yeah, Q-tips were necessary for that.
So, okay. Are there any more Discord questions, John?
That's all of them. We've covered all of them in the talking about it already, so we're good there.
Okay, so let's power through some of these. I liked this one. This is from Jordan. How much say did everyone get in the color they got blasted with? Now,
I don't remember.
I actually did choose my colors, and that's because I did not want pink, because I have this like aversion to, I'm always, as a woman in a band, it is always made so clear to me that I am like the woman in the band, because usually people assume I'm the girlfriend or whatever. Also, I'm just like not into pink. So I was like, I definitely want no pink. Like any other color, don't care.
I think actually everybody
we asked people preferences. We definitely were like, I mean, sometimes there's just like, okay, we have no orange or whatever. Like, so sorry, right. You have to be. But like, but for the most part, where it was possible, it was just like, hey, what are you thinking? Like, you can be yellow or blue or red, because we haven't used those yet. And then some people just got like, like you get the last color left kind of thing.
Yeah. But we did. I remember planning it out though, and saying like, because we didn't want all warm colors on one side and all cool colors on the other.
We didn't want the brightest colors hitting right at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, like, because yellow's a bright color, for example, which is, I think, the first color you see.
Yeah.
But like,
hell yeah. My favorite color.
It is. You know what's funny? Like, I remember...
Your favorite color is yellow?
Yeah, I thought you were going to go for yellow and you didn't.
Wow.
Are you judging?
Cool. So did I. I totally thought she was going to go for yellow as well. I really love kind of that neon blue that Owen had on his, but I know that blue is Owen's favorite color, and the color of Act 1 that for whatever reason I chose, I think it was because it popped so much, was pink. And I think that because it's such a striking, hot pink is not something that I've ever been like a neon pink. I've never been a fan of that until Act 1. And now I just fucking love neon pink. So I was all about that, and nobody wanted it. So it worked out. I think everyone actually got to kind of choose the color they wanted. And
there
some
wasn't
people,
a lot of overlap, really.
Some people, I don't think John actually cared.
I didn't care.
I think John,
I allowed mine to be picked for me. I did.
John, who knew that you would look so good in yellow?
In yellow,
right?
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Okay, next question. We've sort of answered this, but is there war-related significance to the color choices / arrangement?
The color choices?
No, that was what we were able to get our hands on.
Available, yeah.
But to be fair, the war paint design is like every color of the logo.
To be fair, too, when we were looking for colors, because there were a few options, we were in between like New Mexico and Arizona when we ordered the holy powder. And I was pretty adamant that I wanted it to be like a specific color palette, so we did have some choice in the colors that we used. But again, when you're choosing a color palette of like multiple colors, you have to choose kind of like the palette that has the few colors that the others don't have. Everything's going to have red and green and blue. It's just about the tint of those colors and then like the extra colors that you need. So I think we got one that was a little more expensive because it had hot pink and it had a more neon vibe to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of the questions that we got asked, we kind of answered over the course of this podcast, so we don't need to address too many of those. one person, Tim, asked, did you try blowing powder out of the sax? That would have been
I think we did, yeah.
We did.
Yeah, I think we wanted to. I think it didn't work, right?
We would have needed
It also,
like
the air
10
doesn't come
times
out the
air
bottom.
pressure.
Yeah.
Unless you have
comes
every
out the
key
sides.
down. I don't know. It doesn't.
Yeah, you have to
Well,
have every single hole covered by pads.
Kara and I actually did talk
I
about
think you
this.
need so much
the only
pressure.
way to film that, the only way to
Yeah,
film that in
so
a way that it
much.
would work, that we, and I could be wrong, but the way we realized it is either A, you drill a hole in the sax and you cover every single hole, or B, you figure out the one hole that's lowest and then you put an air cannon into it to blow it. Because I wanted a shot of that powder, the red powder flying out of the sax. And I remember having that conversation with Kara, and we were both really excited about the potential of getting it. But as the day progressed, I think it was when we were in McDonald's, you were like,
nothing good comes from McDonald's.
everything
Ryan.
good comes from McDonald's. I remember there was this moment where we were sitting, it wasn't McDonald's, because you were like, I just realized the sack shot's not that important. I was like, why? And you were like, because it's going to look corny. For all the effort that we put into it, there's a higher risk point that it's going to look weird that smoke is blowing out of a saxophone. But even though it would have been corny and expensive to do, there is a small part of me that wishes
We could still do it.
we did.
We can
have it.
still do it. Just
Not in
post
the
it as like
video,
an
but in
Instagram
general.
story, just like 1 second, just like.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
could
true.
take the neck off the sax and then put the fire extinguisher right into it.
Yeah, but that was the conversation. If you want somebody to be playing it in the shot, the only way to do it,
You'd have to rig it for sure.
Totally.
You'd have to rig it.
CGI.
If you know what, fine, okay, fine.
That defeats
If
the purpose
anyone
of
out there-
CGI.
If anyone out there wants to
CGI.
fill their saxophone with holy powder and make this work, you get 2 playlists.
We should have
I'm
people
just saying,
sign
you get 2
waivers
of them.
before they do this, or we could get in
Um,
trouble. People are gonna put M80s in their saxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No,
Don't
no,
put
no.
explosives in your
Don't put
saxophone.
explosives in your saxophone.
Next question.
Okay. So this is for the director.
Hmm.
If you could direct the music video to any released TFC song, which would it be and how would you approach it?
I think I know what it is, but I think it's just because of the other person that's involved in it.
I can think of the song that I want to do the most, and it just happens to not be out yet.
Okay, we can talk about that.
What is it?
We'll break some news.
Baby legs.
I'm curious.
Oh, baby, you got your legs.
Oh
Baby, you
man.
got
Do you
your
still
legs.
like the?
I
Do you
still
still like
like
the
that.
idea that we came up with on the recording tour?
Yes. The
Oh.
yeah, right?
No, don't.
Just bleep
we're
it.
not- no,
Just
we're cutting
bleep
that.
it. That'll make it funnier.
We're not saying what it is because we're gonna do it.
I'll
We're
just
gonna
bleep
do
it,
it.
Yeah,
yeah.
just bleep it. Just bleep it.
No, I
Yeah, there you
bleep
go.
stuff. It's fun.
I straight up love that idea. I don't know
I
how the
think
hell
it's
we'll
great.
do it.
It's gonna be really boring, but I'm gonna love it.
I don't think it'll be boring because I'm gonna find a way to make you hate it.
What were you gonna say? What were you gonna say that you think you know?
I don't necessarily want to say it because, okay, well, we're the only band, I guess, that would ever release a video for something that has been out for years. But we have a really good friend, Just, who is the most brilliant.
I know what you're talking about.
He's the most brilliant screenwriter. And okay, to be fair, I don't know any other screenwriters besides maybe like a handful.
He's
But
good. He has a lot of
he
my
is-
favorite scripts.
Every script he
sure.
sent me has been just unbelievably good. Like I couldn't put it down. And he wrote an idea for Brian that I just love. But again, like making videos is it's hard. It is not expensive. I mean, it's you can do it on the fly, but like you have to have some kind of capital to make it happen. But his vision for it is just really, really cool. And it's been something we talked about for years and we just haven't been able to do. And it hasn't seemed necessarily like the smartest thing because you have to fund for other things that you're doing
It's
that are newer.
so much
but
work that
Yeah.
it's so much as far as resources. It's basically shooting a short film.
Yeah.
But I still
Um,
think that like if he's a screenwriter, but I think that
It
like
would have been sick though.
I mean if you guys want to see it, you can fund it. But like I don't know how we're
Right.
gonna do it.
Start your
It's
own
good, though.
GoFundMe.
Okay, so lastly, and we didn't really talk about this before, so we can cut this, Kara, but do you want to say anything about the most important part of this whole video, which is that it's all about you, baby?
Oh, I mean, it's kind of like coincidence, really, that it happened to be called Pride. So this is like a funny thing. So I wasn't going to come out at all this whole year. I started transitioning in December last year, 2019. And so like that's 10 and a half months ago or something like that. And yeah, I just was gonna like, I don't know, kind of just fly under the radar while I do like all the medical stuff. And then there was talk about this video coming out during Pride Month, and it's like called Pride, and I directed it. It's like the first thing I had come out to you guys, I'd come out to all my friends and everything, but I wasn't out publicly. And so I ended up starting my whole legal name change process and came out publicly in June in prep for this video coming out, and then it didn't come out. But it gave me like the kick in the butt that I kind of needed to like get on with it, because everybody in my life was pretty much just waiting for it. I had like people started like, even before I like socially switched my name to Kara, there were like a handful of friends that just like refused to use anything but that name, even though I was just like, oh, I'm not really like ready for that yet. Like, I think people were just kind of like ready, and I was the one who like wasn't. So it was just kind of nice that like, it just seemed like a really, to me anyway, like when Laura hit me up and was like, hey, we're gonna like try to release this soon, it just didn't make sense to like release a video under my old identity when I'm like actively in the process of separating myself from that, and
Right.
And it just turned out to be such a wonderful little project to be. And then like, and then on top of that, like, even doing this podcast is kind of like a huge deal for me, because I was just like, this is like my it was supposed to be like my cocoon year. I was supposed to just kind of like, be one way, disappear for like a year and a half, and then reemerge like a completely different person, essentially. And I wasn't like, nobody likes to, I think it's like very akin to like a really good musician having like all their demo practice recordings released publicly, where it's just like people want to see, or people want to show like the successful part of themselves. And like, I know that even just with the way hormones work and everything, I know that like 6 months from now, I'm going to look back at this and cringe so hard and be like, wow, like that's how you looked. Holy shit. And because it's such a constant evolution. And but I just kind of realized that like most trans people have it like really, really hard. And there's like pretty privilege is a real thing, no matter who you are, and if you're a trans woman who's like, oh my gosh,
Fat Memphis.
He's just like,
it's my favorite cat. Sorry, my favorite cat.
But yeah, like it's just like basically all trans people benefit from like all other trans people who choose to be seen, essentially.
Right.
And it's like, I could have gone through this whole process privately and showed up kind of in like my final form sometime like this time next year ish, and because yeah, I don't know, most people don't know anything about it, but you just start taking hormones and your like body changes and your face changes and like everything about you just starts morphing, and it takes a few years. And so like my plan was to just kind of like turn up sometime down in the future. And I think that like the fact that we had done this video I just kind of used it as a catalyst to get over myself and just like be public and be seen and like do this podcast with you, even though like I'm not super excited about like having my likeness preserved for all eternity like this, because like this isn't how I want to be remembered. Like I want to be remembered for like how I'm going to be in the future. But at the same time, like I'm super proud of like what I'm doing and who I am, and even though it took me to 35 years old to figure it out for myself, like, you know, I'm proud to like finally be on that path. And I'm just happy that like, yeah, I'm just happy that this video kind of gave me an excuse to kind of like throw the plan out the window and like, I don't know who they are, but like one of your trans fans hit me up on Instagram and was like, it's really nice to see another trans person out in the world working with my favorite band. And I was like, that makes this whole thing so worth it. Like, it's so sweet. So
Well,
shout out to whoever that was. I can't remember, but
I think, you know, we're all like, we love you so much and we're so proud of you. And I think, I'm getting emotional, but
me
I think
too.
all of us are like really deeply like honored to work with you. And we're deeply honored that we were able to be a part of this moment in your life. And, you know, we have always felt very strongly and been very passionate about like supporting the LGBTQ community. And like, so this is like just reinforcing that, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, the whole, you know, I talked about this at the very beginning, but the whole concept of pride changed for me through this video.
Yeah.
Because originally, like the idea of pride, I mean, I've been harping on it for years that it's such a negative thing. And I didn't have enough hubris to look at it and go, well, pride can be a positive thing. You should be proud of who you are. You should be proud of the things that you've accomplished. I mean, it's more like pride that is not uninformed and based
you should
on
be proud to be who you are.
Right. It's pride that's uninformed and based on nothing that is damaging, which I think everyone has in some way. But I remember when you talked about, you know, the release, because you were pushing like, when are we going to release this? And there was the conversation about releasing it during Pride Month. And we did, again, we had I didn't correlate, weirdly enough, I didn't correlate the word pride to all these colors that we were using. And then
the pride movement.
Yeah, I didn't correlate it at all until you said that. And I was like, oh. And I remember talking about it with you and realizing like, you know, I was really proud of you because I do think, you know, coming out of any kind of shell in something like this, and like for anyone, let alone somebody that's like changing their visual identity of themselves in so many ways and their sexual identity in so many ways. I mean, that's hard enough, but change, like coming out in any way is hard, you know? And I think, and change it is hard. And it made me realize like, you know, the fact that you were willing in that point to kind of step out and be like, this is who I am, and I'm proud of who I am, and I am in this phase at the time when you were kind of nervous about it, changed the idea of pride to me completely.
Well, and like bravery, honor, being true to yourself, like everything.
Yeah.
And it also gave me this realization too that like, you know, you're one of my favorite people in the world. Like I texted you a few months back and said, you're probably like the third most important woman in my life now, you know? And, you know, Laura, mom, Kara, and
can't be mom.
Which actually you responded to within like 10 seconds. You were like, okay, Laura, mom, Carla. Yeah. But who you are is who you are. And I think like being able to be confident enough to actually be like, well, who I am is who I am, and I'm changing, and I'm willing to like accept the fact that I'm changing, and be brave enough to like, you know, accept everything that comes with that.
That's something that I find interesting in this whole process, is that like I've always felt that way. Like who you are is who you are. Like the way I just because of the way my brain works, the way I explain it to people is like the algorithm that controls all your decision making doesn't change. Like that part of you stays the same. But like throughout this process, I'm just so thankful for it, because like, you know, when you reevaluate something so foundational, like suddenly nothing's off limits. You're reevaluating everything. And then you realize that who you are is largely like due to societal cues and things that you've picked up throughout your upbringing, and you never chose them to begin with at all. And I think that like most like cisgender hetero people, I kind of almost feel bad sometimes because there's like no huge catalyst to make you reevaluate everything about your life.
Right.
Why do I do this every day when I get up in the morning? Why do I like have this makeup routine? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Like, I think a lot of people just fall into their comforts, but a lot of people don't really ask why, or like, is this really serving me? And so this whole thing has just been like a huge journey of like figuring a lot of that stuff out. And when you toss like, you know, like coming out as transgender is kind of like the ultimate betrayal of people's expectations of you. And so like once you get that out of the way, then you're just like nothing's off limits anymore, really. It's just like, it's like a choose your own adventure, basically. But it's funny, like that idea of bravery, because like, I don't know that many trans people, but I've met, I don't know, 7 or 8 at this point. Like when the whole first 6 months of my transition, I knew 0. Like I was the only trans person I knew. So it was very like odd waters to be treading, because it's not like I had any kind of role model or whatever, or even any like firsthand experience, or I guess secondhand experience of the fact that like this can turn out okay. Like I just had no idea. But it's funny how like I really like, I don't feel very brave. It's just like a thing that, and I think that every trans person I know would kind of agree with this, is that like, it's not really about bravery. It's just about like, there's no other option.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like you just get more and more like, once you figure it out, you like, there's such a huge dissonance that like the quality of your life just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. And so it's like, I can either completely give up on living, or I can like try this thing and it like makes me feel better, but at the same time people treat me worse, but at the same time I feel better. So I'm just going to keep doing it, you know? And then like you find your community and you find your pocket. And then like over time, like society catches up and treats trans people more normally. And part of that is people being out there doing things like, I don't know, like the Wachowskis still making stuff for like Netflix and like their show Sense8 and stuff like that. And
Pose.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And you know, and then there are shows like kind of like HBO's Euphoria, where there's like trans characters where it's like really anybody could play that character, but it happens to be a trans person who's playing it. It's like anything that shows that trans people are just normal ass people is is great. And that's like, I feel like that's my personal mission, because someone told me the other day, I haven't fact checked it, but I totally believe it. 1 in 2 trans women has done or is currently doing sex work. That's 50%. That's insane that like that half of the trans women out there like can't really make that good of a living. Like the easiest way for them to make money to be able to afford transition's really expensive, but just like the only way to get by, because it's like you're not going to get an office job. People will always find reasons not to hire you, you know. And so I think it's really, really important to like, you know, like I'm a freelance filmmaker and I have been spending quarantine doing like editing work for the symphony and stuff, and like and I just think that like anywhere I can just like show up basically and be like, look, I'm making it work, like just to show people who, and also most of my friends have never met a trans person either, which automatically makes me an ambassador in a way.
Right.
So it's just like, you know, I just have to go out and like rep myself to people and be like, oh yeah, like I'm trans, but like I rock climb and I play the drums and I still like to eat fast food and like.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, the bravery element says more about the society that we live in than anything else.
Yeah.
The fact that like you have to, because there is an element of like bravery that comes into it. The fact that you have to be brave to do it. The fact that it's not something that like that people like why in the fuck does anyone give a shit at the end of the day if you're living your best life and you're actually that's the biggest problem here. You know, it's like the fact that you should have to worry about the fact that this has to be a big deal, you know, because at the end of the day, if you are living the best version of yourself and you're one of the best people I know, the fact that you can't do that without scrutiny, it just perplexes myself and so many people. And again, it all falls into a weird ego and a weird societal ego that people don't even understand why they hold at the end of the day. I mean, you know, the utopia that we all hope for is the fact that like this isn't a fucking issue.
Yeah, so like I said, I've been on hormones for 10.5 months now. I have yet to use a public restroom. I have planned all of my day outings to just like not have to use the bathroom unless I'm home, because it's like there are people out there who like, you know, like if I use a men's room I'll get weird looks, but like if I use a women's room, which is like the more comfortable space to be at this point, there are just like people out there who it's just hard when you have like people like J.K. Rowling or whatever. I don't want to talk shit on anybody, but like they're just
do it.
There are people with like very public platforms that are just like very adamant about the idea that like I'm actually a man and that I should use men's rooms and that like, you know, and that I shouldn't be allowed into women's spaces, and that if I want any sense of community, if I want to find any sense of otherness, then it's just like I am like this other category and that I should just go find other trans people and like buy an island somewhere, essentially. Like,
well, I mean, I identify as a woman, and let me just put out there that you're welcome in the ladies' room with me any day of the week.
Thanks.
We can powder our noses. You know, we can do whatever.
Nice. Do whatever. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for
Thanks,
being
Kara.
yeah, for
Thanks for dealing with us.
and being on the program.
Thanks for having me. And like thanks for encouraging the little platform there. And like
of course.
Thanks for
You're always welcome on the podcast.
Yeah, you can come on the pod whenever you want.
Sweet. Thanks for working with you.
We'll have a segment called Kara's Corner.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Thanks,
everybody, rate, subscribe. I hope you learned
Peace.
something today. I love you.
Vote.
Please vote. Please vote. And we love you, and be well and stay safe out there.
It's dinner time.
See you next time.
Oh my God, it's so dinner time.
It's
Do you guys
bedtime
have like
for
an
John.
outro that you sing to end this? Or
No,
I just cut to the end. I just cut to the end page right now.